doing good today? Let me ask you one more time. You doing good? Good. Some of you guys are like, you are not Pastor Jeremy. Where is that guy at? No, I'm not. Pastor Jeremy and Pastor Meg are in Dallas, Texas today, and they are spending the weekend with Pastor Jim and Becky Hennessy, who are some of our overseers. They are at a pastor's conference and just getting refreshed, refueled. How many of you know it's important for our pastors to be able to get away and get refreshed and just rejuvenated for a weekend? And so pray for them as they are out there just having a really good time. And today we are kicking off a new series called Relationships 101. Let me back up for just a second. How many of y'all enjoyed our series called 2020? I hope that helped you just to be able to kick off your year right, to be able to put some foundations in place for 2020. And today we're kicking off a brand new series called Relationships 101. And how many of you know relationships are complicated? Some of y'all need to be nudging your spouse right there. Like, yeah, because of you. No, we're not going there today, maybe next week. But we're kicking off a series today called Relationships 101. And today we're going to be talking about our need for one another. And I just encourage you, don't miss a part of this series because we're going to hit the gamut when it comes to relationships. We're going to talk about our need for each other. We're going to talk about marriage. We're going to talk about parenting. We're going to talk about communication. It's going to be a fun one. Don't miss any of it. It's going to be really fun. But today I want to talk about, we try to take one Sunday a year, and we try to really hone in and talk about our need for one another. Because how many know we need each other? Let me say that again. How many know we need each other? And it's something that as a church, we have 9 core values here at CLC, and they really help to govern us to be able to, they're really kind of guardrails for our church. They create the culture of our church. And one of them is, one of our core values is this. I just want to read it to you. If you want to write it down, you can, is that we will find our significance through relationships. We will find our significance through relationships. And we really believe that. We believe that significance is not found alone, right? Like you can only do so much in life alone, and it takes each other to be able to really pull this thing off called life. Because how many know life's hard enough alone? You got to have people with you that can run this journey with you. I want you to turn to Proverbs. Let's go to Proverbs chapter 27 today. Proverbs chapter 27, and it says this, in verse 17, it says, "It takes a grinding wheel to sharpen a blade, and so one person sharpens the character of another person." How many know I can't get sharp on my own? I need somebody else to really be with me. I need somebody else to run this race. In other words, I need the right people in my life. I need the right people. And I want you to write this next statement down because it really kind of lays the foundation for this whole message. If you miss this, you really miss a lot of what I'm going to say today, is that the right people help you become the right person. How many of y'all can attest to that? The right people help you become the right person. Now, notice I didn't just say people help you become the right person. It's the right, everybody say right, people help you become the right person. I think too often in life is that we end up in the places that we are, we end up in the places that we don't want to be simply because we let anybody into our life. And how many know if you just let anybody into your life, anybody's going to take you anywhere? Right? There's been so many times in my life, I look back, I was thinking about it this week, that people were trying to take me in the wrong direction. People were trying to take me places that I felt like I wasn't supposed to go. I remember in high school it happened multiple times. I remember in college it happened. Even in adulthood it's happened, right? Because if you get the right people help you become the right person. It's the right people in our life, and this is why we're in this season, because we want to put people around you that are right for you, that are godly, that are running the race that you're called to run. So we need the right people in our life. But the second thing that I want you to get, I want you to write this down today, is that the right people help us to the right destination. How many know the right people can get you to the right place? The right people in your life can get you to the place that you need to be. Now, hear this, is that we all have a calling on our life. We all have a purpose on our life. We all have something big that God has called us to do. Like everybody, nobody in this room is called to do something small for God. It all looks different, but we're all called to do something really, really big for God. But I just want you to know that it's going to take people in your life, the right people, that are going to help you to get to that place. You won't get there alone. I found that every place of significance that God has ever taken me, I never got to that place alone. It was the right people that helped to get me to the right destination. And vice versa. How many know that the wrong people in your life will take you to the wrong destination? Man, they'll take you all kinds of ways. They will take you. If God wants you to go straight, they're going to take you left, right, and backwards. Amen? That's why we got to have the right people in our life. I'll never forget a few years ago, we were, me and my wife and Hadley, we were driving down to the beach. And one thing you got to know about me is that I'm a destination kind of guy, right? Like I'm not a journey guy. I'm a get there kind of guy. You know what I'm saying? Where are all the destination people at? Raise your hand if you're a journey person. Okay, we'll open up the altars later for you and we'll lay hands on you. Okay. I'm a destination guy, right? So I want to get there. Like if we're going to the beach, we're going. You get one stop. And we're going to get there. It may not be fun on the journey, but you're going to be glad when I get you there 30 minutes to an hour early. You know what I'm saying? When I was a youth pastor, and we would go down to youth convention every year, I'd gather all the students up, and I'd give them the instructions, and I'd tell them, you need to go to the bathroom now, because you got one stop. Because Pastor Noah's going. And they knew. It took them 1 year, and then they figured it out. Like, oh, I better hold it. You know what I'm saying? So we go down to, we're driving down to the beach, and Jordan and Hadley, they both told me, hey, I got to go to the bathroom. And I'm looking at my watch. I'm looking at my GPS. I'm like, we're already like 2.5 minutes behind. You know what I'm saying? We're like 2.5 minutes behind. But because I love you, I'm going to pull off this exit, okay? So we get off the exit. Secretly, I had to go to the bathroom, but I wasn't going to say anything because that's what dads do. And so they get out, they go to the bathroom, get back in the car, and I'm all right, guys, let's go. We are 4.5 minutes behind right now. Let's go. The beach is calling my name, baby. So I get in the car, and we get on the interstate, and we're driving, and Jordan, she looks up, and she goes, now, we've been in the car for a little bit at this point, probably 20 minutes. She goes, I think I've seen that sign before. And I said, okay, that's fine, cool. Yeah, you just kind of, put your head down. I'm going to keep going. She looks up again about 5-10 minutes later, and she goes, she starts laughing. She goes, I've seen that sign too. She pulls up her GPS, and she goes, babe, you're driving to Birmingham. And I said, no, there's no way. No, because dads, we have this little issue in our life, and it's called pride, right? And I said, there's no way I'm going the wrong direction. There's just no way. She pulled it, babe, you're driving to Hoover. We're not going to the beach. And so I put my pride to the side. I found the nearest exit, and at this point, guys, we're 30 minutes into it, babe. I mean, we're 30 minutes the wrong direction. I find the nearest exit. I pull around. I had to tell her, I said, babe, I thank you. I did. I had to put my pride to the side, and I said, babe, thank you for letting me know, because if you wouldn't have let me know, the next thing I would have seen is us driving into Montgomery. 2 hours too late, right? And I was thinking about that story this week, because how many know we need the right people in our life that can stop us at times and say, hey, you are going the wrong direction. You're going the wrong direction. And let me tell you, at times, you don't want to hear that. How many know when my wife said that, it was the last thing in the whole world that I wanted to hear? Hey, babe, you're 30 minutes the wrong direction. right? And I think there's maybe a couple different people in here. Maybe you came in here and you know I'm heading the wrong direction. Like I'm just not in the place that God wants me to be. I'm heading in the wrong direction. Or maybe you're in the second category and you're just almost oblivious that you're heading in the wrong direction. Maybe you don't know that you're going the wrong direction. Because how many know the enemy's really good at disguising things in our life? And he's really good at disguising relationships to make it look like we're heading the right direction when in all reality we're really not. And it takes having the right people in our life to be able to come around us and say, no, you're going in the wrong direction. I'm so thankful that people in my life through the years have stopped me and said, Noah, you're going the wrong direction. You think you're going the right direction. You think you're going to the place that you should be, but you're not. So we need people that can come into our life that can, they can steer us. They can tell us with all honesty and with all truthfulness, you got to go a different direction. Why? Why? Because the people in our lives are prophetic of where our lives are headed. The people in our life, the people that we are surrounded with, they are prophetic of where our life is headed. I used to tell the students all the time, show me your 5 closest friends and I'll show you in 5 years where you're going to be. Show me, just count it. Show me the 5 closest friends in your life and I'll show you in 5 years where your life's going to be. Why? Because the people in your life are prophetic of where your life is headed. We are the product of the people that we surround ourselves with. So this morning, I want to take just a few minutes and I want to talk about this guy named Moses. And Moses, I think that we can learn some things about his life and how that he surrounded himself with not just people, but he surrounded himself with the people that would get him to the place that God ultimately wanted him to be. Because listen to me, God has an intended place for you. God has a big calling, a big purpose, a big plan for your life. But it takes having people, the right people, to get you to the right destination. So I want you to turn to Exodus chapter 17 this morning. Exodus chapter 17, and we're going to start in verse 8. We're going to read about the life of Moses this morning. And it says, while the people of Israel were still at Rephidim, the warriors of Amalek attacked them. In verse 9, Moses commanded Joshua, choose some men to go out and fight the army of Amalek for us. Tomorrow I will stand at the top of the hill holding the staff of God in my hand. In verse 10. So Joshua did what Moses had commanded and fought the army of Amalek. Meanwhile, Moses, Aaron, and Hur climbed to the top of the nearby hill. In verse 11. And as long as Moses held up the staff in his hand, the Israelites had the advantage. But whenever he dropped his hands, the Amalekites gained the advantage. And then verse 12. And Moses' arms soon became tired, so he could no longer hold them up. And so Aaron and Hur found a stone for him to sit on. And they stood on each side of Moses, holding up his hands. So his hands held steady until the sunset. Today, I want to give you 2 things this morning. 2 things that Moses did right. 2 things that Moses did right. The first thing that Moses did right is that, number 1, Moses didn't go alone. I want you to write that down. Moses didn't go alone. This is one of the first big battles of the Israelites all throughout the Old Testament. The Israelites find themselves in this war with the Amalekites over and over and over again, but this is the first real big battle against these guys. And God tells them, I'm going to give you the victory. Go ahead and tell Joshua, go fight the men. Go fight the guys. But God gives strict instructions to Moses and tells him, I want you to go to the top of the hill and I want you to hold up your arms. And one of the things that I love so much is that Moses knew he had a big job ahead of him. Moses, he knew that the battle being won or lost was literally riding on his shoulders. It was all on him. If all of them were defeated, it was on his shoulders. If all of them won, it was on his shoulders. But one thing that Moses decided to do, Moses said, I know this is a big battle. I know this is a big journey. I know this is a huge turning point for the children of Israel. So I cannot do this alone. I can't do this alone. So he takes with him. I want you to see verse 10. So Joshua did what Moses had commanded. Meanwhile, I love this little sentence. This is that Moses, Aaron, and Hur climbed to the top of the nearby hill. It tells us that he didn't go alone, that he chose to take people with him. And I want you to know that your assignment today from God is big. It's big. I don't care what you've been called to, whether you're a businessman, you're a mom, you're a dad, we're a student, whatever life has called you, you have a huge assignment. And the huge assignment that is on your life causes you to have the right people with you. You got to have them with you. You got to be surrounded by the right people. And I want you to know today that I think that loneliness and isolation, it's not a problem in our culture, it's an epidemic in our culture. It is not just a problem. Oh, hey, we're lonely. No, it's become an epidemic in our culture. We're doing life alone and separated and distant, and it was never God's design. It was never God's plan. I want to read you some statistics. About 3 years ago, 20,000 people were polled asking about their relationships and their friendships. This is strictly a secular poll that was given, okay? 54% of those 20,000 responded and said that they felt like no one actually knows who they are. 54% said that in their workplace, in their lives, in their family, no one actually knows who they are. 40% said that they lack companionship and that their relationships aren't meaningful. 40% out of that 20,000 said that the relationships that they do have no meaning. 40% also said that they felt isolated from other people. 8,000 of those said that they felt isolated from people. Okay? For Gen Z, which is ages 18 to 24, the last stat that was at 40% that felt isolated from others, that went from 40% to 60%. 60% of those that were in Gen Z felt like they're isolated from other people. And here's what the article said. The higher the social media usage, the lower the actual companionship they had. The higher the social media usage, the lower actual companionship. Y'all, that's amazing. Is that we feel like we're more connected than we've ever been, but yet we're lonelier than we've ever been. As a society and a culture, we're a culture right now that is striving for likes and loves, and our soul is empty because our soul is craving genuine, godly, covenant relationships. And let me just tell you this: you can't find it on Instagram. I think it's a powerful tool. God's using it. I believe that. I'm on all of it. But let me tell you, you cannot find those type of relationships that you can't find Aaron and hers on Facebook. You can't do it. So it said in that is that the higher the social media usage, the lonelier that people are getting. We just got to pay attention to this stuff because just because we're more connected doesn't mean that we have more friends. It's not the way it works. I want you to know, I think that the world is finally figuring this thing out. I love when the world finally figures out what God's been saying for years. Isn't that amazing? Right? He said back in the beginning, it's not good for man to be what? Alone. And I think too often we attach that to a marriage verse, and it is. All the fellas said, amen, okay, right? It's not good for man to be alone. But I want you to know that that's just a relationship verse. Like God didn't intend for us to be alone. And the stats are telling us that too many people are. And I think that what has been in the world has invaded the church. And the enemy's lied to us and told us that we can do life alone and that we can do life separate from people. And it just isn't the truth. I found some news articles that have been written by, again, the world is picking up on this. Now, the world doesn't know that the answer is the church, but we're praying that they do. Amen? Here, the Washington Post said that a surgeon says there's a loneliness epidemic. USA Today says young people report more loneliness than the elderly. The Boston Globe, the biggest threat facing middle-aged men isn't smoking or obesity, it's loneliness. The New York Times, the surprising effects of loneliness on your health. The Atlantic, loneliness begets more loneliness. The New York Times, how isolation is killing us. The world's picking up on this, church. That loneliness is not, just health-wise, it's not good for us. But can I tell you, spiritually, health-wise, it's even worse, right? I'll give you this last one. There was a Surgeon General from years ago. He wrote an article. He was really one of the first ones to call loneliness and isolation a health epidemic. And here's what he says. This former Surgeon General was the first to call loneliness an epidemic. He has shown that loneliness causes, in quotations, an insidious type of stress that is not good for the human heart. And here's what he says, I want you to see this, is that loneliness has the same effect on mortality as smoking 15 cigarettes a day. Loneliness has the same effect on mortality as smoking 15 cigarettes a day. It's amazing, church. I'm watching this show right now on the History Channel, and it's called Alone. And what they do is they take 10 people and they send them out to the Vancouver wilderness, and they tell them, however, the person that can stay the longest wins $500,000. Sign me up. I mean, I would last like 3 hours, but I mean, sign a brother up. I'll at least give it a try. Sends them out into the Vancouver wilderness, $500,000 if you can stay the longest. And they're surrounded by bears. I mean, it's starvation. They have to find, literally, the only thing they walked in there with was a backpack. That's it. And the thing, almost all of them, the thing that gets them is not the bears. The first bear growl I heard, I would be walking on water to the boat. You know what I'm saying? Bears, all of it. And almost all of them say, I'm separated from people. I need human interaction. I'm lonely. I'm isolated. It's the loneliness that drives them crazy. And I'm telling you, church, God has an answer, and the answer is family. That's the answer. I was reading in Psalms chapter 68. Psalms chapter 68, I was reading in my one-year Bible, and y'all ever read a verse and it just explodes off the page at you? And he gives all these definitions of what God is. He's the defender, and he's holy, and he sets the prisoners free. And then right in the middle, you need to see this. I want you to underline it. Is that right in the middle it says this. It says, God places the lonely in families. He places the lonely in families. And church, can I tell you what you walked into today is family? This is family. Small groups are family. Community is family. We do life together, right? And I think too many of us, we have been lied to, and we've gotten in the habit of just being separated and just trying to do it on our own. And God says, no, I have a better plan for you. And the plan is family. Because God places the lonely in families. And I so desperately want this for you today, that God has this huge calling and plan and purpose for your life, but you will not accomplish it alone. You won't. Like you can try for a little while, but you'll only become so successful. I love what Proverbs 17:17 says. It says, a friend loves at all times, but a brother is born for a time of adversity. In other words, family is born for a time of adversity. Because we were, church, whether you know this or not, we were created for community. Whether you would consider yourself a people person or not, you were created for community, but our human tendency is to drift towards isolation. If you leave me alone, I'm going to drift towards myself. I'm going to get into my own thoughts. I'm going to get into my own actions. I'm going to get into my own life habits, right? We were created for community, church, because we have to refuse to go alone. Say, I refuse to go alone. Number two, the second thing that Moses did right is that Moses surrounded himself with the right people. Moses surrounded himself with the right people. Verse 11, I want to read this. Verse 11, it says, as long as Moses held up the staff in his hand, the Israelites had the advantage. Everybody say the advantage. But whenever he dropped his hand, the Amalekites gained the advantage. And Moses' arms soon became so tired he couldn't hold them up. So Aaron and Hur found a stone for him to sit on. So I want to begin to think about this, church, this idea of the advantage. Church, can I tell you that in life, God has given the people of God an advantage, and it's this. It's the family. It's every Sunday. It's small groups. It's Wednesday nights. It's the advantage. So, in other words, when Moses would hold up his arms, and Aaron and Hur were with him, that was the advantage. But as soon as they begin to fall, the Amalekites started taking over. They started to win the battle. And church, can I tell you, the secret advantage of life is the people that you surround yourself with. I believe that the secret advantage, winning and losing these fights, is all dependent upon who we surround ourselves with. I think it's that vital. That Aaron and Hur were there, and they're holding up his arms. I want you to write this down, is that I'm only as good as the people that I surround myself with. I'm only as good. I'm only spiritually as healthy as the people that I surround myself with. Right? Good company leads to good character. It's all throughout the Bible, over and over and over again. I'm only as good as the people that I surround myself with. But I want to give you a real picture of what friendship looks like, of what covenant friendship is supposed to look like. Let's look at verse 12. So Moses' arms soon became so tired he could no longer hold them up. So Aaron and Hur found a stone for him to sit on, and they stood on each side of Moses. I love this picture, church. This is family. This is the picture of community. This is the picture of doing life with people, holding up his hands so that his hands held steady until sunset. Another translation says this. It says, when the hands of Moses became too heavy to lift. Church, can I tell you this, is that at some point life's going to get heavy. Let me say it again. At some point, life is going to get heavy. And it's not just going to get heavy, it's going to get really heavy. It's going to. Like, I hate to be the bearer of bad news. You already know that. But life is going to happen. Like, it's going to happen. Life's going to get heavy. There's going to be a bad diagnosis. Something's going to happen at work. The kids are going to go crazy. Come on, somebody. Right? Life at some point is going to throw you a curveball. And my biggest question today is not if that happens, it's when that happens. When it happens, who's holding up your arms? Who's holding up your arms when you go to the doctor and you get the bad diagnosis, or you go to work and you find out that they've let you go? When something happens with your spouse, when something happens in life that's heavy, at that point, who's holding up your arms? Because listen, I don't need covenant relationships on my best day. I need covenant relationships on my worst day. I need covenant relationships when my eyes are so filled with tears I can't even see the road in front of me. That's when I need people in my life that are holding up my arms. That say, Noah, I've got it. I've got this. We can do this together. I love this story of Moses. This is covenant relationships. Because we go back to the beginning, and Moses knows, again, all of this is riding on him. And I think that Moses knew, as he's taking these two guys with him, I could hold my hands up for a few minutes, right? Like I think there was probably this thought process that went through Moses' head of I could probably hold him up for 30 minutes. If the war being won is predicated upon my arms being lifted up, then I need to figure out how long I can hold him up, right? And I think that this calculation probably went through Moses' head. I can hold him up for 30 minutes. I could probably hold my arms up for probably an hour. But then I think that this question went through his head. What if the battle goes on for 3 hours? What if the battle goes on for 5 hours? What if the battle goes in for 12? What if this thing turns into a day-long battle? Which it did. Most historians would tell us that this battle was about a day long. So what would have happened if Moses, being prideful, if Moses not being surrounded himself, said, you know what, I've got this. I can hold my arms up on my own. I think too many of us are at this point, church. I've got it. I've got it. I can hold my arms up. And yeah, you can make it 30 minutes. You can make it an hour, but you can't make it a week. You can't make it. You can't make it 2 weeks. You can't make it a semester holding your arms up on your own, church. And I think this is a vital part of the story is when Moses clicked in his head, I can't do this alone. I can't do this alone. And I think too many of us, we got to get to this place where we have to make the decision today, God, I will not leave this church doing life alone. I'm not gonna do it. Because you may be able to do it for 30 minutes. You may be able to hold them up for a couple hours. But life's gonna get heavy. Life's gonna get heavy. And you gotta make the decision. I'm gonna take people with me so that I can make it for the long haul. Listen, God is not interested in you just holding up your arms for the month of January. God is interested in you holding up your arms from January, February, March, and you get to Christmas and you're just as strong as you are at Christmas time as you were in January. But can I tell you, that won't happen unless you got Aaron and hers right there beside you. It won't happen. It won't happen. I want you to write this down, that if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go fast, go alone. But if you want to go far, go with others. Some of y'all need to get that this morning. If you want to go fast, like if you just want to get to a place really, really quick, just go alone. But if you want to go far, if you want to do everything that God's intended and called and destined for you to do, you've got to go with other people. So what would have happened if Moses didn't take these 2 guys with him? What would have happened? The raw facts would tell us is that he never would have won the battle. He never would have won the battle if he didn't take these 2 guys with him. And all of those people down in the valley with Joshua, all of them probably would have been killed. Right? But because he did take them. Here's what Exodus chapter 17 and verse 13 says. And I love the way that the Bible puts it. It says, and in this way Joshua totally defeated the Amalekites. He totally defeated. There was no question that they were defeated. It was an absolute defeat for them. Why? Because he took people with him. Because Moses chose to not go alone. The battles that we win or we lose are connected with the people that we are surrounded with. Let me say that again. The battles that we win and lose are connected with the people that we surround ourselves with. Okay? So then how do we surround ourselves with these people? Right? Some of you are like, Pastor, no, I have got to find some new friends. I got to find some new people in my life. I don't want to give you a problem without giving you a solution today. There's a lot of great things that we do here at CLC. We do Sunday's great and outreach and just our teams, man, our teams are absolutely incredible. I think one of the things that is the lifeblood of this church is our small group ministry. I believe that. I believe that in my heart of hearts, I believe that we have experienced more life change in small groups than we even have on Sunday mornings. And I think that that's the way that God destined it to be, because we're connected, we're doing life together, we're being molded and we're being shaped together, right? So I think that small groups, I think it's where God's called us to be, because he hasn't called us to live life alone. I personally am a product of small groups. 15 years ago, I walked into a small group. I'm a pastor's kid. My parents have been in ministry for 35 years. I was running from God, running from the call of God that was on my life. And my dad, he said, hey, I got these group of guys, and I want you to go hang out with them. And I'll never forget walking into this small group, and guys were dealing with the same things that I was. And they were hurting just like I was, and some of them were running. But I'll never forget rededicating my life, being called into ministry once again in a small group ministry. It wasn't in a Sunday morning like this. It was in the context of a small group, right? Small groups are a big deal. I want you to watch this video real quick of Roger and Michael talking about how the small groups have impacted their life.
As men, it's really hard to want to get closer to other guys. And it's, like I said, it's something that God didn't intend for us to do by ourselves. And you can't create a real friendship, real relationship, just one day a week on a Sunday. Not during a service when you spend 10 minutes talking and then you leave and go eat lunch. It doesn't happen only on Sundays. And it's made a huge impact in my life, less about things that I've learned, some more about the intangibles, the desire to get closer to God, the fellowship with other guys that you can reach out to, that you can get prayer over, they can lift you up, support you. That's something that you don't get sitting at home by yourself or only going to church on Sundays.
So I was able to, because of this small group, I was able to meet a gentleman by the name of Steve in the church. And prior to this small group, Steve and I had really not had a relationship, but we had both agreed to kind of lead the group. And because of that, we had a chance to meet. We had a few coffee dates, so we met. And not only did we talk about the small group, we had a chance to kind of get to know each other much better. And we were able to talk about some personal things, and I was able to share with him. My daughter had just kind of finished her NICU experience, and I was able to share with him kind of that process, and he was able to pray for me, and I was also able to pray for him about some things that he had been going through, and it was just a phenomenal opportunity to connect with Steve outside of just the hey and bye before and after service. So those are the things that you get with the small group. It's not just a thing we'll gather for just a semester. No, these relationships will extend long beyond the small group session.
Come on, church, can you put your hands together for that? People finding real life change in small groups. And one of the things that both of them said is that you can only accomplish so much on Sunday mornings. Like, we love this. This is incredible. This is the front door of our church, and man, I hope that you just meet God and God changes your life here. But I want you to know that there's another step beyond Sunday mornings, and it's small groups, it's community, it's Wednesday nights, it's doing life with other people. And in closing today, I just want to give you just real quick, what do you find in small groups? Maybe you're new to it. Maybe you've been here for years, but you've never really gotten connected. What do you find? The first thing that you find is that you find connection in small groups. You find connection. Here's what Romans chapter 1 says. It says, Paul's writing, it says, and when we get together, in other words, like this is the goal of small groups right here. When we get together, I want to encourage you in your faith, but I also want to be encouraged by yours. Yo, that's a good verse right there. I want to be encouraged by your faith, but I also want to be encouraged by yours. In other words, like there's going to be times where you've got to give encouragement, but there's also going to be times where you need to receive it. Let me put it like this. There's going to be times where you're lifting up somebody's arms, and then there's going to be times where somebody's lifting up your arms. This is where you find the connection part of our church. And I just did some digging this week, and sometimes to find the original, real meaning of a word, you got to go back. And this word encouragement that Paul uses in the Greek, it means this. So again, he says, I want to encourage you in your faith, and then you encourage me by yours. And that word encouragement, I want you to get this because it's powerful. It means a calling to one's aid. But then it also means this, and this is the stronger definition. It means to be close beside. It means to be close beside somebody. Pastor Drake, come here, buddy. You go stand over there. So here's what happens on Sunday mornings. If we're not careful, this is what Sunday morning, and both Roger and Michael said this, is that if we're not careful, we just wave at people. Hey, Pastor Trey, what's up, man? Life good? Right? Like, you can only have so much of conversations. Like, how's your family? How's your LSU Tigers doing? That's great. Roll Tide. Who cares? Okay. One national championship in 10 years, it goes to their head, okay? I'm just kidding. I love you. But if we're not careful, this is what life looks like on Sundays. And I can only be so close to you like this. I can only get healing like this so much. But can I tell you that this is not what God's only designed us to be? Like, this is fine for a season. And this may be what you need for a season. But you can't stay here. Because can I tell you, the enemy is not scared of this distance. Let me say that again. The enemy is not scared of this distance right here. So that word encouragement, it literally means a calling to one's aid. It means I got to get close to somebody. Pastor Trey, come on. So this is what small groups is. This is what life is. We're going to walk together. We're going to talk together. We're going to do life together. And church, can I tell you, this is where the mask comes off. This is where addiction is broken off. This is where you find out who I am and what I'm struggling with. And you can only know me at such a high level from there to there. Can I tell you, church, that superficial Christianity is over? This is where healing happens. This is where I take off the mask and I say, Trey, this is what I'm really dealing with. This is what's really going on in my life. This is what my life behind the scenes really looks like. So he tells us that we find connection in it. And it's a drawing close. But here's what the second thing that you're going to find in small groups is that you're going to find protection. You're going to find protection in small groups. And I'll say right here, will you put up Ecclesiastes? And it says, 2 people are better off than one, for they can help each other succeed. And if one person falls, the other can reach out and help. But someone who falls alone is in real trouble. Get this. If you're doing life alone, church, and you fall, it's not my words, the Bible's words, you're in real trouble. You're in real trouble. But here's what it says. Verse 11. Likewise, 2 people lying close together can keep each other warm. We're not going to illustrate that, okay? All right. I love you. We're not doing that. Okay. But how can one be warm alone? But a person standing alone can be attacked and defeated. If I'm over here, I'm subject to everything. I'm alone. I'm subject. Let's go back to I'm subject to the bear attacks. But here's what it says: a person standing alone. But 2 can stand back to back and conquer, and 3 are even better. Mike, come here. Come here, Mike. Come on. Stand right here behind me. Come here, Mike. So here's what I want here. Stand right here. Just turn back. There you go. So church, I want you to, this is the picture of small groups right here. It's that we're close. We've brought each other together. We're at one's aid, but we've got each other's back. So I know what Mike's going through. Mike knows what I'm going through. Mike knows what Trey's going through. Trey knows what I'm going through. We're doing this together. How many of there's safety in this right here? I can go to war like this. I can go through life like this. Church, this is God's design for you. It's that you not be distant, but that you be close. Thank you, guys. Thank you. Thank you. Will you stand with me? Stand with me. I was praying for you this week and been praying and fasting for you. Because I so desperately want everybody in here just to take one step towards community. Listen, I really believe that maybe today, maybe you are just, you're one small group get on board day. Your one 40-foot jog over there, however long that distance is, to a totally different life. Maybe you're one friendship, maybe you're one mentor away, maybe you're one Wednesday night away from a totally different life. But you're going to have to reject every lie the enemy's ever told you, because you can't do this alone. You need people in your life. With every head bowed, every eye closed today. Maybe you came in here today and before we even get into small groups, before you even take that step, you say, Pastor Noah, I'm distant from God. Like I'm far from God today. And I need to get back close. Maybe that's your first decision. You say, Pastor Noah, we're not going to call you to the front or anything like that. But if you say, Pastor Noah, that's me today. I just need Jesus in my life. Would you just lift your hand? If you say, Pastor Noah, that's me. Thank you. Thank you. Awesome. Church, I want us to do this. I want us to repeat this prayer today. I want you to say, Jesus, come into my heart. Forgive me of my sins. Today, I choose to make you Lord and Savior of my life. From this day forward, I put you number one in my life. With every eye closed still, this is what I want you to do. I want to pray over you. And I want to pray that this would be the most fruitful relational semester that you have ever had in your life. I want to pray that the enemy would break off every lie that you can do this on your own. I want to pray that God would bring supernatural favor in relationships into your life. The people that you've been praying for, God will bring them into your life. Come on, if you just stick your hands out just right where you are. Father, I just thank you right now in this moment. God, for every person that has come in today that is lonely and they're hurting and they're in need of relationships. Father, I bind the spirit of isolation and loneliness off of this church in Jesus' name. That is not your design for people. That is not your calling for people. You've created us to do life with one another. And so I pray, God, that you would put the right people in our life. I just pray favor over relationships. People that have been praying for mentors. People have been praying for sons and daughters to pour into. People that have been praying, God, give me the right people. I pray today, God, that you'd open up doors, God, that only you can open up. God, I pray, give us the boldness to take a step to get connected to those groups. Father, some of us we're just timid. Maybe our personality, we shy away from those things. Father, I just pray, God, for the boldness to get connected today. Come on, just right where you are, just say it to yourself. Just say, God, I won't go alone. God, I won't go alone. God, I just pray, surround us with people that can hold our arms up. God, on our worst days, bring the right people into our life that can hold our arms up.